Welcome to The Passion Pod with your host, Chris Johnson. Thanks for joining us. Now sit back, relax, and enjoy the feature presentation.
Season 3, Episode 7.
Welcome back, friends, for our first ever couples episode. Today, I took the trek of a 2-block walk, because that's right, my shop, Passion Board Shop's 2 blocks away, from this downtown studio for a local jewelry company owned by a power couple we can all be jealous of. So welcome the owners of Hello Adorn, Adam and Jess.
Hello.
Hello, thanks for having us.
Yeah, I'm stoked to be here. Like, I was in this zone before you guys, yet you guys came in, and now you're the cool people in this area downtown.
The North Barstow District.
Yeah, I don't understand. I opened my store 6.5 years ago. The rent was super cheap, and then since then, Justin Vernon walks in and opens a hotel, and then we have Ramon's open, and Becca opens, and Brooke is here, and now you guys are here.
Yeah.
We're like the happening spot now.
That's right.
It's a good place to be.
Okay, so let's get a little intro from both of you. Adam and Jess, but like, what are your full names? What do you do? All that stuff.
You want to go first? Ladies first?
Sure. My name is Jess Gardner. I'm the founder of Hello Adorn and co-owner at this point, I guess. And I do a lot of the making and most of the creative and social media advertising, I would say, are my main duties.
So you're the brain behind the whole thing. Yeah.
I think so.
Yeah, she's the creative, for sure. She's the one that, so I'm Adam Gardner, sorry. Jess is the creative, Jess is the founder. I came into this business after it had been developed, like I was telling you. I think I give credit to people that create things out of thin air, like both of you have done. That was inspiring to me. I had spent 13 years in the insurance industry, doing very well, but also getting very burnt out. And so I saw the opportunity to basically join forces with Jess and to see where we could take it. So I've been with Hello Adorn. We've been doing this together for just over 4 years now. And I've kind of taken the humbling approach of taking the easy things of the business, building it out, and turning it over to somebody else. And at this point, ultimately working a lot more with the external customers and then with our employees as well on the internal side of things.
So that's fun when you have like different backgrounds, right? If you're coming into a business that she started, so like it was her thing, you already had it going, but maybe he was better at managing people or something.
100%.
Maybe understood how to make connections with sales, different things, right? That like are just as essential to the business. You know, maybe not at the very beginning of growing a business, but just as essential to grow the business bigger. Yeah. So, you could start out as like kind of an employee, but then all of a sudden it's like, look, what I'm doing is bringing in more money than you, maybe.
I don't think, and the cool thing I think for us we've done a good job of is like, because everybody says, right, like, I could never work with my wife. I could never work with... That's the most common thing we hear. That's the most common thing I heard leaving Aflac. And it's not easy. I mean, because they're your business partner. We raise our kids together. We do it all together. So you got to just have a huge appreciation for one another and value what the other one's doing. It can't be like, I'm more important than you. It can't be... do this, you just do... Yeah, like, all that stuff will cause issues, I think. So I think one thing we've done a good job of is respecting one another and what we bring to the table, and I think that's why it is growing so fast in the 4 years we've been doing it together. So,
yeah, you guys have done fantastic, and I think that is a really difficult thing to balance, even within just regular business partners when you don't have like a serious relationship to try to mix and juggle between. Yep. So yeah, you guys are doing really well. So to get back to you, Jess, though, you started the company, you did everything. Just as far as like throwing the plug for people to understand, like this is what Hello Adorn is, because a lot of people who started listening to the show at the beginning were skateboarders or friends of mine, which jewelry to a certain degree, especially what you guys do, isn't immediately what people would think of when they look at me. So
I don't know, you're pretty filled up.
I wear a little gold. Okay, so I want you to describe what Hello Adorn is, and also shoot the plug out there as far as if anyone wants to get in contact with you, whether they want to purchase stuff from you or find out more about you or get you on their podcast or whatever. Give me the story about what it is.
Well, the company Hello Adorn is we make fine handmade jewelry. We make it all here in Eau Claire. We ship all over the world, mostly the U.S., but and it's mostly very modern, minimalist, super delicate pieces. So that's sort of our vibe. helloadorn.com. And the majority of our business is just direct to our website. We have a couple, we have our retail shop, and then we have, I don't know, maybe 20 stockists around the country that carry us.
Yep.
And then most of our social media channels is like where we engage with our customers the most. So for sure, hit us up on Instagram, because that's my fave.
Instagram at Hello Adorn, right?
Correct.
Perfect. Okay, so Adam, you already kind of talked about how you were insurance, right? So you like managed people and you made all these, you got good at selling yourself as the solution to people's needs.
Yep.
That's what I did too. You used to, Jess, have a clothing store, right? We talked about it off mic a little bit. Can you kind of give me a brief summary of what that was and how that transitioned into Hello Adorn?
Sure. Well, actually, my background isn't even fashion or jewelry design. It's business. So we have that in common. I went to college for finance and economics in Montana State. And I worked in finance for probably close to 10 years. And then when I was just about 30, I blew out my knee skiing. And I was on like the ACL rehab, just sitting there on this machine that moves your knee 24/7. And I was like, I don't know if this is the life for me. I want to do something a little more creative. And it really was these jeans. I was obsessed with this particular brand of denim that you had to drive to Minneapolis to get. But and I lived in New York and I lived in some other big cities, so like I just was kind of more accustomed to that selection. And so I was seeing some women around here wearing these jeans, and I knew they weren't getting them here. They were going to the cities also. So I thought, like, why can't would there be a clothing store here that like caters to that? That we still really have no good clothing stores that aren't chains, and those chains that we do have are very targeted towards specific audiences. So I started kind of working on a business plan in my little ACL recovery machine, and basically decided to open a clothing store on the side. It wasn't going to be my gig. It was going to be like just a side project. So I opened the clothing store in 2008 right down the street, and during the course of having this clothing store, I had these ideas for jewelry pieces, super simple. Obviously, that's what we do. And I just kept asking, like, can you make these people that I was buying jewelry from, can you make something that's just this stone on a long pendant, or can you make something that's just a piece of like a hammered bar on a chain? And then ultimately I just kind of started playing with it myself. So in 2010, I started making a little bit of jewelry for the store. Still, Isabel and Company was like, the clothing store was my main purpose. The jewelry was just kind of an add-on. And then we moved the store from downtown into the mall, and then out of the mall and online, and that's what we talked about off mic, which is sort of how like the clothing disappeared and the jewelry stepped up and
emerged as the winner.
So where it came from, you guys told me off mic, right? Is you're doing the clothing, like you said, but then all of a sudden you understood that, like, well, with jewelry we can do made to order stuff. Correct. Right? So that eliminated the problem of investing all this money into all this inventory that may or may not sell. Because I have that problem in my own store. Right. Everyone's like, oh, why don't you carry more shoes? And I'm like, well, dude, every style of shoes I'm spending $500 to $1,000 just to get just the size run. Yeah. So it makes it really difficult. But yeah, I mean, if you can do like made to order stuff, that's why people do pre-books all the time, right? And that's why when you see people do like pre-orders for a shirt for a show or whatever else, if you can eliminate having all this extra inventory that either doesn't sell or you discount it like to a point where you lost money on the items, kind of opens up a lot more opportunity. Then the profit's just, right there. So leading into that then, how did you guys get this thing to be so big? Like, you guys have a good following. Your Instagram's at like 18,000 or something, which for people out of Eau Claire, even if you sell a lot online, is a pretty significant number. How did that thing take off so much?
I mean, the Instagram's been super organic, which I think is why it's so successful for us. The Facebook was a little different. That sort of was like, the more you boost posts and pay for ads, you just sort of like, I think people sometimes accidentally like your page and they don't even know. So our Facebook's probably 30 or 40,000 people, but they're far less engaged than our Instagram. The Instagram has been just sort of an organic growth, people tagging, and we're doing a lot in our stories and things to make people stick around. But
yeah, and it's been very deliberate. Like we both know, like, I think the struggle with a lot of small businesses is like for example, like Jess was making jewelry, so people create a business to make jewelry because they want to do it for themselves, but then they get lost in just making jewelry, right? And so like that's only so scalable, because then you ultimately like just create a job for yourself versus create a business. And I think the best thing we did, like when I joined, that obviously added more, two of us instead of one. And then we've really built around that, and we've hired like Kimmy, who is our graphic designer, social media guru, and then Rich. We have 2 employees, remote employees, that have really taken a deliberate approach to how we present ourselves on Instagram, on Facebook, how much we're spending on those platforms, how is that performing?
Who our target audience is.
Who our target, I mean, it's crazy. Like, it's the creepy stuff that everybody talks about, right? Like, they all have like 15,000 attributes of all of us and like what our behaviors are and how we shop. But as a business, you can really use that to your advantage. And we needed help to do that. Like, we kind of joke now, me and Jess do, that like the things that we're executing on those platforms are kind of over our head. But we have two people that we connect with twice a week on conference calls that just crush it in that arena. And they ultimately are executing on a lot of the ideas that Jess is creating. You know, like, again, that's where I give her the credit for like the creative behind it. She has a very aesthetic feel, a very good idea of what she wants to present the business as, and then these people really help us execute that. And that makes a huge difference when you're trying to grow a following, especially when you're trying to do it organic and you're not just trying to buy your audience. Because you can buy an audience on some of these platforms, but then, I mean, what's it really doing for you besides giving you an impressive number, right?
So we want our Instagram to be, like, obviously fun, but we also want it to convert to sales.
Right.
So we don't just want 100,000 followers who only care this, like, very little about us. We'd rather have 18,000 followers who are all in.
Yeah.
Yeah, of course. Well, I mean, it's hard when you start your own thing because you look at something like a brand like Nike or something that's got whatever, 1 million employees or something, and everybody has their own job to make sure that each thing is done to, you know, a certain thing, right? Like to make their photos perfect or whatever. Like they have everyone that does that. But when you turn around, you work for yourself. Well, shit, you got to do everything. And, like, no one's good at everything. You just really aren't. You know what I mean? Like, I have very specific skill sets that I'm good at, and I have very specific things within my business that I know I'm not good at.
Right.
And if you can grow your business to a point where you can actually pay people a livable wage to take care of those things, then I feel like you almost, like, get past a hump.
Yeah.
Like, I feel like within
yeah.
business, there's certain walls that you hit, and one of them, obviously, is getting to a point where you can make enough money to pay yourself.
Yeah.
But then, then all of a sudden you're growing, and you don't have enough time. You can see how to grow your business, but you don't really have the time and energy to put into all those avenues anymore.
And there's no way, and that's where I wish, like, we'll talk a lot about us. I wish we could talk about, like, the 10 individuals that work with us, right? And, like, highlight all them. Because there's just no growth the way we've done it without the team that's been supporting us. And like we told you kind of off mic as we were just talking prior to, we didn't hire a bunch of people that were jewelry makers. And we didn't hire people that came from fulfillment centers. They were typically friends or family or some connection to us, people that we cared about that cared about us enough to help. And we trusted. Like you said, you know, you got to find people that you trust. You got to find that.
And we also really like an environment that's like, we want everybody to mesh well together.
Yeah.
You know, and it's sort of risky to hire an outsider with no connection and wonder, are they going to fit in?
Yeah.
Is this going to feel good in here, you know?
Yeah. So it's
I mean,
grown.
we work in a very close space.
Yeah. But so it's like, obviously, I mean, when I jumped from insurance over to here, like we joke about all the way we even package things. Like we created cardstock, we printed it, and we used a paper cutter to make each individual, and we wrapped every box in bubble wrap. All the things that like to scale a business, you have to take a little risk and you have to make a little investment in the branding and the packaging and everything. But it was cool to see it happen, and every step that we've taken off a little bit more, we've had just the right amount of support with us. That's just made it possible, and it's made it super fun along the way too.
I think one thing too is too many people, as they get older, they think their window's gone, which is stupid.
Like at the age of 26.
Yeah, they think their window of opportunity is gone when no. As you get older, assuming that you're actually a hustler and you've been out there working, you've learned so much more. Now going into it, your rate of success is probably way, way better because you have a better understanding of how to control your overhead costs. And you understand that like if you hire somebody, it's not about whether like they're your personal friend or not. It's about whether or not their work works with you. You know, how you work is the same, because we've all been in a job where we liked the job and then someone within, you know, your employee base changes and then all of a sudden you hate your job. So there's like you learn stuff over time that I think makes it a little bit easier. Okay, so Jess, tell me a little bit more. I guess I need to know, like, I'm single now. I'm trying to see ladies. They're all super cute. They're all super cool. I want to impress them, or maybe it's dudes that are buying it too. Tell me more about like the jewelry itself.
Okay. Our jewelry it's just very minimal. It's the certain kind of woman who just wants to look really good but not try too hard, if that makes sense. I personally love gold, so everything that we make starts as just gold, really simple gold jewelry. We obviously make it in silver also, but it's all photographed in gold. It really appeals to like that sort of modern minimalist woman. But I think what really sets our jewelry apart, because if you Google modern minimal jewelry, you're going to find 1 million people who make this, and some of it's handmade, some of it's not. And if the handmade nature is what's important to you, then obviously that's what people like about ours. But I think what's really special about our jewelry is our story. I think a lot of people really are happy to learn about the fact that we make it ourselves as a husband and wife, that we left corporate America to kind of pursue like a much smaller dream that gave us more time to live the life we really wanted to live, and making jewelry is sort of what does that for us. So I think that's what makes our base so loyal, is like they can find this exact same design probably 10 other places with a very simple search, but they just really like that it comes from us, that we made it here.
Yeah, no, I can relate. Like with the skateboard shop, I tell people all the time in general that I don't sell anything in my store. That's just not my goal, is to sell anything ever. Mm-hmm. My goal is for you to view me and my store as the solution to your needs. When you're going to get something, you just want to buy it from me because I gave you that unique experience. You know what I mean? Right. I was able to build that connection with all of my customers, which is why people are so loyal. And there's nothing surface about it. I do genuinely really care and enjoy all the people that come through my store, which makes it really easy.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like once you get to that point,
Right.
because then you actually just like what you do. You don't really feel like you're trying to push anything.
Right.
Like you're just being yourself. People can see that you're just being yourself, and it kind of is this upward cycle that just continuously works.
Well, and I think that's like to Jess's credit again. Like, so, you know, I wish you could have seen her old downtown shop. You would have loved it, right? And it was curated so unique. And I remember her struggle when we talked about a website. The struggle that she was having was like, well, it's all about the customer experience. It's all about them walking through the door. So how the hell do you create that on a website? But if you look at our website, it's very deliberate. Like the landing page that people land on, that wasn't just like thrown together, right? Like it's constantly changing. It's constantly moving this image from that image, because I think Jess has always taken that very seriously and got me wrapped up in it as well, and the people that we work with, that we want to try at least, even though it's on a web page, we're going to try and give you that shopping experience where it's very clean and it's on brand, I guess, is ultimately what I'm trying to say. So our website has a lot of work behind it to get it to where it looks like people just like, oh, it looks real simple, it looks real, neat, and everything's organized. But that takes a lot of effort. And
well, even every product shoot, every lifestyle shoot, it all has to have a feel so that nothing sticks out on the website as like out of place, or like, what is that doing in this shop? Everything should just, hopefully you can just look at a couple pages on our website and really get a feel for the brand and like what our style is and what we want you to experience.
And we know that that's the attention span you get in the world today, right? And the newer generations keep proving it. Like we always say on the Instagram page, like your first 9 photos should be dynamite, because you either get them or lose them. Like they're going to land on your page and you get about 15 seconds of their attention and they're on to the next.
I always say like I'll do, if I can swipe twice, so however many photos I can see when I swipe, that's all I'm going to look at. And I'm either going to like follow you or not interested by 2 swipes. I'm not going to probably go through any of those photos and read captions. I'm just going to and I'm aesthetic. Like that's just my thing. I'm always going to look at how it makes me feel when I look at it. So I'm either like, I'm into this, so I'm going to follow, and then I'm interested in what you're going to say after that. But I'm probably not going to do much more research than that. I'm not going to look at all of your photos individually and see what you have to say and then decide. So I have this like paranoia over our grid. It's become a joke. Like somebody wanted to do a local giveaway, and of course we want to support other local businesses, especially during the pandemic, but I was like, that is not going to work in our grid. I don't know how to I don't want to put that in there because it doesn't look anything like us and it's going to mess up my grid. I'm paranoid about it, but it's important to me.
Well, it really depends on what your business's like goal and who your demographic is, right? Like there's a reason that people hire creative directors like as a job that make a ton of money for big business. Right. You have to have you have to tell a story, because in a small space, like the community of Eau Claire, well, people don't buy skateboards online from me very often. And I do want to grow that, but it's kind of hard to grow that because there's other people selling it and there's big warehouses. Like it doesn't really fit. Well, for me, I don't expect to like try to grow my online following much beyond people I meet personally. Mm-hmm. So like especially for my store, obviously it's a little bit different with the podcast, but especially for my store, the curation isn't quite as important because it's more focused on the personal. They're going to meet me first. They already want to know about what I'm doing.
Right.
But if you're on the other end where you're trying to create something and grow a brand with people that you probably will never meet, then you're absolutely right. You know what I mean? That initial thing that they're looking at is people look at looks before they look at personality. Well, I'm sorry, that also
that is true for the gram.
That also is
100%.
for Instagram. So it's very important. And I will say for everybody else too that listens, because people all the time are asking me like, oh man, I have this idea, I have this idea, I have this idea, and whatever. That's fantastic. But everything is oversaturated. Everything is cluttered right now. There's way too much. So it's really hard to stand out, especially if you don't have a very clean, very specific story that you're telling. If you have that from the beginning, then it'll work. But if you just have this idea and it's so easy to make an Instagram page and just post something. If you just start doing that right away, you're kind of like cutting yourself off right at the beginning. You know what I mean? You're not giving yourself a chance for success at all.
Right.
If you're going to have something exist, you should really just wait until it's to that certain quality. Even among having all the social medias, right? I don't use Twitter. Why? I don't know how to use Twitter. I'm not going to use it effectively.
Plus, it doesn't look pretty.
It doesn't look pretty. But in general, if I'm not going to do it well, then why do it? Right. Somebody's going to then want to know about me, discover me on the platform I don't pay attention to, and now not have a good understanding of what I'm about. So thankfully, it sounds like you guys have grown enough, been able to hire people to help you take care of pretty much every major avenue. I'm sure that's helped quite a bit.
Yeah, it's helped a ton.
Okay, so let's get a little personal. You guys are married and you have this sweet business. How did you guys meet?
I actually slapped Adam across the face at a bar, and the rest is history.
Fair enough. It's pretty much
so
true.
if you can find what'd you call her? Your sweet Betty.
I gotta find this sweet little Betty.
Sweet little Betty. And if you can get her to slap you across the face, just write your ticket to happiness.
Oh, that's not the advice I would have expected. I feel like
it's truth. We're just here to bring you truth.
Well, I'll try to get rid of my smooth talking. Usually I'm pretty good at it, and people like me, but I got to be a little bit more of an asshole. It'll work.
Yeah, I think so.
So we talked off mic again about balancing work and home life, because that's something I think a lot of entrepreneurs struggle with, because you understand that you can always work more.
Yeah.
For a lot of careers, you guys have been working for yourselves for a long time. Even in the insurance industry, obviously, you were still basically self-employed. So you could kind of you could work 80 hours a week and make more money.
Sure.
Versus a lot of people, it's you got to do what you do in the 40 hours. So the work-life balance isn't nearly as difficult for them. How does that kind of work with your dynamic? Because for me, when I'm not at work, I am thinking about work things a lot. And then when you have both parties doing that, I feel like it must be hard to shut it off.
Well, and it's because like you said, you could do 80 hours a week, but you could legitimately work 24 hours a day, right? There's just no end to what you could do, what you could think about. So it has to be very deliberate for us. We bought a cabin because we need
with no Wi-Fi.
With no Wi-Fi.
On purpose.
And shitty cell phone reception. Yeah. Our kids play cards when they go to the cabin. Things like that. We travel a lot. That was a big reason behind this business. So in the insurance industry, one thing they do is they incentivize you with winning travel. So I remember when we were talking about this, we were leaving, Jess is so we are still committed to the travel, right? Even though we're paying for it all. Because we were going on trip after trip, and it's we're going to keep doing that. And that was a big part of us, finding that balance is that recharge. We both love going to the ocean. We both love taking a break,
I think a part of our story that I didn't mention was I lost both my parents. One when I was 27 and one when I was 35. And it just Adam was working a lot. He was getting really fried, honestly. He was just sort of losing his charisma and the happiness. I just felt him just sort of shutting off when he'd come home from work. And then I was doing my own thing, so I was also feeling a little burnt out. And the kids were growing at this point. They were in, I think, maybe elementary, middle school. And I just thought, I don't want this to just be gone. And we just forgot to pay attention. So we just decided we need to do what we can do so that we can live the life we want. So we can travel with the kids and not have to make sure we could leave work or, that's why this started as sort of a small dream, which is really much larger than it was then. Yeah. And now we need all this extra help so we can still have that freedom and flexibility to go enjoy our family.
Yeah.
I think it's hard for people to hold themselves back almost, when the right things are there. The problem is opportunities for growth are always going to be there if you're good at what you do.
Right.
But you choose to work for yourself typically for the lifestyle that it brings. Part of it is like the fulfillment that you get from it, that sense of accomplishment, obviously. Yeah. But then also the lifestyle of the freedom, right? That's my favorite thing about working for myself is I have complete freedom to do anything that I want anytime. If I want to just leave for a month or two, I can. If I wanted to make, have a pendant made of my logo because that was a cool way to promo, like I could spend my time doing that, or I could do paintings and throw an art show. Like I can kind of do whatever I want. But because there's always room for growth. And when you see an opportunity to make more money, sometimes it's hard to say no to that. But then you have to like hold on and remember that, well, money's not the reason I'm in this in the first place.
Yeah. One of my favorite quotes is like, entrepreneurs are the only people willing to work 60 hours a week for them so that they don't have to work 40 hours a week for somebody else.
Yeah.
And that's how it feels a lot of the time.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I looked at potentially expanding my store at one point. Yeah. And so I looked at several different locations and it's like, okay, I could sell more if I was in these locations. Like I know I could. Yeah. But ultimately what it came down to when I decided, no, I don't want to do that is, well, if I went there, the overhead's more. I know I'll make more money, but I got to be open 7 days a week at that point. I got to have employees, which means I can't really shut my brain down. I can't only have my store open 6 hours a day. I got to be open 10 hours a day. Like it's going to be adding a lot more stress to me. And is it worth it for the potential to make more money? For me at that was one I turned down.
Well, and I think like I've always felt, and I told you this like off mic prior, like starting out as a 22-year-old kid leaving college, it was specifically income driven. Like my motivation came from making money, and that hung around for quite a while. It started to shift, and it's shifted a lot now. And the biggest understanding I had was like if you are chasing a number, that number will always grow. You will never catch a number if you're a number chaser. In my opinion, that's just my viewpoint. There's some people that may disagree, but I can tell you I've caught probably 5 numbers over the years that I wanted, and you just want more. And if you get more, to your point then, what's that going to do to your life? Like, and you do have to find that balance as far as like, what's the number you're looking for? What does that do for you? How does that fit in your life? And when it's 2 of you, when it's both of us, like you said, like we're both always thinking about this, but we're both also like thinking about different parts of the business, or, I think that's where like our strengths and weaknesses probably play off each other fairly well. But it's just, as it's hard to like turn it off completely because it does engulf you very much.
It feels like that point of diminishing returns is also a personal diminishing return. Like we could expand 10 times and until we reach that like actual point of diminishing returns financially. But at what point in our relationship or our lifestyle have we hit that point of diminishing returns, far before the numbers indicate?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a difficult thing that I don't think most people have a very good understanding of. I mean, people complain, right, when they've just become like an assistant manager at a store. Right. Because they're like, oh, well, then people are always bothering me when I'm outside of work. Well, for people like you guys, especially way more than me, but even me, I'm worried about my store getting broken into because I've been broken into before. Right. So, like, I'm always a little bit on edge about it, even when I'm not at my store. Or anytime I have an employee at my store, I'm worried that some interaction is going to happen. Someone's going to steal something. Somebody said something, there was an argument, and now I'm getting a negative review or something. Like, it's something that I'm always worried about because it's my name that's on the line, like, all the time, which is obviously, like, stressful, but like I said, it comes down to like you're very fulfilled by what you want or what you do, which makes you want to continue to do more of it. So it's kind of like a double-edged sword. Like it's good in a way because you're getting ahead, but like you're taking away from yourself at the same time.
Agreed.
We talked a little bit about who like helps people, right? Nobody does anything totally on their own. I like to think that I did everything on my own, but I didn't. Like there is, if nothing else, somebody wrote an article on the internet I read that helped me. So there's always people that are helping you. Who have been some of the like really key people outside of just the 2 of you that have helped Hello Adorn get to where it is?
Man, go ahead. I mean, well, for me, like, I guess, I don't know that I could say it helped Hello Adorn get to where it is. I think for me, a big part, like, I'll give props to my mom, to be honest. My mom does a lot of work in the space of consciousness. She teaches a course. So, like, we've both dug fairly deep. We've both really accepted the fact of like personal responsibility and that ultimately everything you create, good and bad in life, is yours. And I think people are real quick to be like, oh yeah, I did that when it's good. Like, look what I did, look what I created. But when they have some real bad shit go on in their life, they're kind of like, well, this person did that to me or that person did that. So I would start there for me, like from a just larger perspective of my universe. Like I give so much credit to my mom kind of like sticking with me on that and always holding me accountable. And like in the insurance days when I'd go to her and complain about everyone that I was working with or that was on my team, and she'd be like, oh, well, like, what's your part in that, right? You know, it's always that self-reflect. Like, so for me, my mom was huge. And then outside of that, it was just buddies that were within that business with me that were doing the same thing I was. Like, we were all going through the struggle. We were all building together, some more so than others that I could highlight. But I just had a real strong group of people that, as you know, that's probably part of this, like, podcast, right? Like, you go out and meet other people that have similar experiences. And those people really, like, I got to learn from watching them and what did they do. And they probably learned some from me maybe. But yeah, so I have a lot of like mentors, I guess, probably one specifically, but my mom, I give a ton of credit to, because there's business and then there's just like taking care of yourself. And there's like, once you, I think, start stretching your mind, it never goes back. So I feel like Jess and I have both stretched our mind over and over again, and it never like bounces back. Right. So I feel like that's, I guess, not to sound like arrogant or anything with it, but it's just like we've dug deep into a lot of that stuff.
Yeah, it's not arrogant. It's not about being arrogant at all. It's about personal growth, right? Like, to get any job done, you need a tool. Sometimes you have a tool that isn't the right tool for the job, but you can make it work, right?
Yep.
Like, however, if you're the tool to get anything done in your life, the better quality you are, the better you're going to be at literally everything. Right. So, like, I always like to think of it as, like, people can talk about their retirements, or they could talk about whatever, like, all these different things. It's all about how you invest your time, money, and energy. And it's not a waste by investing your time, money, and energy on improving yourself at your core, rather than just, like, purchasing a new property or something. There's just different ways of investing. Mm-hmm. And if you invest it in yourself and your own personal growth, like what you were saying, you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. It's going to make you more successful at everything moving forward, because your past accomplishments are in the past anyways. Yep. So who cares? If you want to live off your past accomplishments, great, but in 6 months, you're going to be real sick of it. Right. You want to keep getting better, so that way you can accomplish more and more and more things.
Right. Agreed. And Adam's mom, too, speaking of just, like, identifying some limiting beliefs, like that was like amazing when I learned some of those things about myself. Like, oh my gosh, I think that. No wonder. Like, no wonder I'm hitting these things all the time. Or I had these beliefs around like busyness and laziness, and I was just constantly like, I thought it was a really strong attribute to be a workaholic. Like, I was proud of the label workaholic, and then I realized, like, that's not attractive, honestly. Like, I'm just running around so that I don't feel lazy, but I'm not doing something that I love or that I'm passionate about. I just want to be considered, successful because I'm really, really busy. But like that wasn't serving me in any way. It wasn't progressing me towards anything that I was really happy about.
Well, and that comes down to like capitalist America in general. If you want, like, we're grown up to try to compare ourselves to other people, when realistically it's our lives. Like, regardless spiritually of what you feel, it's your life. You get one of them on America. Like, unless whatever, but in general, you get one life, right? Most people.
Next episode.
Right. You get one life, and ultimately, you have to be happy with it. It doesn't matter what your coworker or somebody else thought of you. You know what I mean? You have to feel good about who you are as a person. That's it, really.
For me, I grew up with parents who were self-employed, but very much financially struggled. So all I knew growing up was that I didn't want that. So I searched for corporate America, and I clung so tightly to this like dream of like this salary and this big corporation and this job security and like being financially successful. And that's when I discovered that belief around like, if I'm not busy, I'm lazy. Like, I don't want to be self-employed so that I can be lazy and broke. I want to work for the man so I can be like rich and tired. I don't know. So, but then once I sort of like discovered that, and I was like, wait, you mean you can be self-employed and not broke? I'm going to try that. Like, I like that. Let's do that.
Yeah. And I'll touch briefly on the job security thing too. That was something that both my parents, my parents forever told me I could do anything I wanted. Right, but I am a little bit the black sheep. My sister works for Google, makes a ton of money. She's got her doctorate degree. I didn't get a college degree. I got a bunch of tattoos, and I own a little skateboard shop. But when I left, I was working for Verizon Wireless and making too much money when I was like 22. And I could have grown and made a lot of money. And the big thing that my parents were talking to me about was like, oh man, why would you want to leave that job security? Why you don't have a college degree? That's pretty good money. Like, why walk away from that? To do something so risky? Well, I genuinely, you can call it ego, whatever, I believe that I can do anything that I want. I genuinely believe that about myself. It just depends on how much time, energy I want to put into it. But I genuinely believe I can do anything that I want at all. Well, one of my best friends was also assistant manager at Verizon Wireless, and he got a phone call 3 years ago that just said, hey, sorry, man, as a corporation for A volume stores, we're going down from 4 assistants to 3, so your job's eliminated. See ya.
Yeah.
And he had just been promoted, right? So he was the top salesperson, just got promoted, but because of the way the corporation worked, his job was just eliminated. Well, who the hell had more job security? Was it him?
Right.
Or was it somebody like myself that was completely in control?
Yeah.
I can't go out of business. It's not
See,
possible.
So I argue this point all the time because so like in Aflac, 4 of the years I just recruited for Northwest Wisconsin. I basically tried to get people to leave their security blanket, their cush job, to come and take a risk on themselves, right? Because they wanted it, and they'd always tell me that in the interview, but to be self-employed. And the number one thing you hear is job security. And I need the W-2 and I need this. And I don't know who listens totally to the podcast, but whoever does listen to it, like I just disagree with that strongly. I'm more on the side of what you're saying. I think that when you work for yourself, your job, like if you're motivated, now you can't work for yourself and half-ass anything because you don't get paid when you're self-employed and you're not working. But if you have the work ethic and you're motivated about something, that's job security. Because I have a lot of friends that make a lot of money that build a life around that income. And to your point of getting a phone call, that can be taken away because that's not your decision. So like I think our society has this belief around job security and having, you know, they also have security around like benefits and health and dental and vision and all these things that are kind of just more money in, money out programs, to be completely honest. So it's like when you talk about job security, again, if you're motivated, if you want to do the work, to me, create whatever you're excited about because nobody can take it away from you except yourself, right? But that's just always like, it's just kind of a hot topic for me because I heard it for so many years. Like I need this job security. And then people's parents kind of argue it for them. Like, well, why would you let go of this job? Or why wouldn't you want to work for the government or whatever it is? Like all those things can be taken away in the snap of a finger to not even to your fault sometimes, right?
Yeah.
Like to people that are doing a really good job and doing what they're asked to do, companies have things happen and things need to get downsized, or you get to a point where you're making so much money for a company, they can say, I wonder if we could pay somebody like a lot less to do like 85% as well as that person. Yeah. And guess what they're going to make the decision to do? Yeah. They're going to make that change. Not all of them. I'm not like blanket statementing this. And I'm not trying to like go on a soapbox thing. I just think this is a big thing that people hesitate to get into business for themselves because of what you said with job security. And I would strongly disagree with that. And it's just my belief that like if you create it on your own and you want to work for it, it's yours.
Yeah.
So
I feel 100% the same way. I currently am working 6-hour days. If I needed more money, I can go make more money. Yep. If I'm just open 2 hours extra every day, I will just make more money. If like whatever happens in my life that I need more money, since I'm self-employed, I can just make it. So it'll always be there. My job will always be there. So I think that's like kind of a garbage reason that I think it's more that people don't have a good understanding of it than anything because of like what society teaches.
For sure.
Okay, so I endorse a local rapper, and in general, like, I'm connected to a lot of musicians in town. So they wear a lot of my stuff, and it's, like, pretty sick every time that I get a little shout-out. I'm like, damn, yeah, they dig what I do, but they're way cooler than me. If you guys could have any celebrity all of a sudden endorse Hello Adorn, who's it going to be?
Oh, that's your question, honey, for sure. This is women's jewelry. This is your jam.
This is not really an answer to your question, but we did have a real life dream come true in that arena, except it was a brand. It was Anthropologie, not a person, but Anthropologie. I don't know if you know who they are. They're a huge retailer. Most women would know them for sure. They share a parent company with Urban Outfitters or Free People, if you know either of those.
I'm familiar with them, yeah.
Okay, so it's one of their brands, and they reached out to us 3-ish years ago. Uh-huh. And wanted to carry some of our jewelry, and that was like, are you kidding me? Anthropologie wants to carry our jewelry? Like, that was like the biggest thing I could ever imagine. It was such a big deal. It came with challenges because obviously they are a huge retailer. They don't want like 10 of something like most of our stockists. They wanted 2,000 of this particular piece of jewelry that they saw. It was called a fan necklace, and they were like, we want your necklace on our website. Can we order 2,000 of them? And I was like, my first instinct was like, anything you want, anything. And then I was like, I started counting to 2,000 because like to make something 2,000 times is insane. But I was like, I don't care, I'm doing it. And then I started just counting 1, 2,
3 and I got to like 40 and I was like, nope, I can't even count to 2,000. How am I going to make something 2,000 times? Like, and it was just Adam and I think our first employee, Jenny, was doing like some packaging and like helping out, but not able to like bear the workload of that. And so then I was like, but what, we can't say no. Like, I can't let this opportunity pass. Anthropologie is it. So we were like, well, I'm going to have to go back to them and just tell them I can't do that, but are you still interested in something like more along these lines? And I was like, I'm just going to blow this opportunity. I'm going to be so mad at myself, but like, I can't do it. So we went back to them and said, we can't produce that many. Like, here's kind of what we can do. And they were like, all right. So they started selling our things in like smaller quantities. I think the most of anything we ever did for them was 300 of one thing, which I've learned real quickly after 300 that I'm so glad that we said no to 2,000, because 300 of anything even was like, oh my gosh. But we were sold to them for a couple of years.
I would say, Jess, anyone, it'd be music industry for sure. Kind of to your point of rap, like I think as far as just like fangirling over anyone, like Elle King would be an example of one that you kind of like.
Well, because I just saw her post like what I thought was our tiny twist earrings the other day, and so I shared it. And I was like, is it possible that Elle King is wearing our jewelry? Because, backstory, I went to one of Elle King's concerts, and I took a picture, and I posted it on Instagram before I cared about my grid, because now I would never post a concert picture on my Instagram. But I posted a picture, and of course I tagged Elle King, and Elle King tagged her mom in the picture, and her mom started following us on Instagram. So Elle King's mom follows us on Instagram. So when I saw what I thought were tiny twist earrings in Elle King's post, I was like, it's not outside the realm of possibility that Elle King is wearing our tiny twist earrings. That was pretty exciting. Yeah. Would I think she's a poster child for like the Hello Adorn girl? No, she's probably not, but it'd be exciting if she did. And she maybe does.
I think when you're doing something that you really care about, and then all of a sudden you get the recognition by somebody you really respect within the thing that you really care about, those things mean a lot. And sometimes they're like super easy. Like for me, when I opened up my skateboard shop, the biggest like name in skateboarding that everyone knows, you guys know, is Thrasher, right? Thrasher magazine. It's the skateboard Bible. It's the one mag, and there's so much more than just like the magazine.
Way back.
Yeah, and they have been forever. So they're just like have this respect with them. Well, obviously I reached out to them when I was opening a shop just to like make connections with whatever. And right away after I opened, in the back of every mag printed are all the core shops.
Oh, and no way.
Right away, Passion Board Shop, Eau Claire, started being printed.
No
every
way.
Thrasher.
No
and I
way.
hadn't even done anything yet.
Oh, wow.
I mean, I opened my store, but like it was tiny. You know what I mean? And like right away to have that respect was like, wow, that's so cool. You know what I mean?
That's probably the anthro thing to her, honestly. Like, because
sure.
I can dig on, I get Thrasher because like from skating in the 80s, and like they were the jam.
I think having a person, like a celebrity, wear the jewelry or like the jewelry is one thing. 'Cause, I mean, that'd be wonderful. But having a brand that curates this collection of wonderful things for people, and I respect it so much, to ask us to be a part of that collection was like probably far outweighed like some random celebrity wearing something, you know. As someone who has no design background, my background is finance and economics, and like that was what I was trained to do. That's what somebody gave me a diploma for and told me, you're qualified for this. Nobody ever told me you're qualified to be a jewelry designer. So for me, having something like Anthropologie, which is, like I've said 100 times, like that was it for me. Ask to carry our jewelry was like, that felt like the validation that I was looking for, that, I mean, now I know I didn't need, but it certainly made me feel better, like, or more qualified. Or there's like that imposter syndrome, I think, with how you can get into business today, with just like opening an Instagram account and having a Shopify store, and like you can call yourself, you can literally be whatever you want to be. But my generation was like, you had to have like credentials to do something. So, and I didn't have jewelry design credentials. So I'd had this sort of imposter syndrome of like, is it fair? When people ask me what I do, can I even say I'm a jewelry designer? Because like, I just decided to call myself that. Is that fair? Like, you know, so having that like validation at that time, at least 3 years ago, felt like super welcomed by me.
Yeah. I think one problem with America, obviously, like that in itself is a huge, huge problem, because you're putting a barrier out there that doesn't need to exist at all. But one thing, I don't remember where I heard it, but I think it was on like a minimalist podcast or something. They were talking about how it sucks that people ask you what you do for a living, because then it's like, okay, yeah, I create jewelry. Well, you don't have to make money for that to be something that you really enjoy doing. You can just be a jewelry creator or whatever thing you want to be You don't have to make money off it. It's not about legitimizing it to anybody.
Right.
If it's a legitimate thing that you enjoy, that should really be all that it matters. It's just kind of like our civilization, our country in particular, that pushes you to the belief of if you can't do it professionally, then it doesn't count.
That's got to be the first or second question asked.
Yeah,
like anytime
always,
you meet
right?
somebody, what do you do for a living?
Yeah.
I think I felt like, this is a lie, but this is an example. I like to cook. Can I call myself a chef? No. Like, that's where I felt like I like to make jewelry. Can I call myself a jewelry designer? I didn't think that I felt like I could do that.
Well, and part of it is because people assume when you say that, you do it professionally. Because again, like how our dialogue goes with people naturally, you know, like for my show, right? I started creating this last year. It's a relatively new thing. And because people had seen what I'd done business-wise in the past, especially in Eau Claire, people were pretty quick to buy into it and understand, like, oh, I could give him my time because he's probably not going to just like waste all of it, you know? But it was on the radio right away. I don't really make money off it being on the radio, you know, a little bit here and there or whatever, but like this being on air, which it will be when people are listening to it right now, it's not that I'm making a living off of this show, but all of a sudden, you know, when I tell people, yeah, it's on the radio every week, then it's legitimized in their minds. Like, oh, you're a radio personality. Oh, you're a podcaster. It's like, well, I mean, I created this regardless without the validation of a radio station.
Yeah.
The fact that I found a radio station that aligns with my views, that wants to share my content, that's great. But it doesn't change what I'm actually doing at all. If tomorrow all of a sudden they decide to stop airing it, which I hope not, but if they did,
maybe after this episode,
it's not gonna make me any less of now a podcaster or whatever. You know,
I think
whatever.
We learned like the work that Adam's mom does is about like identities and like how you view the world or yourself through this like identity of yours. And us both having these professional careers where we had a title on a business card and we were paid accordingly. And then I opened the clothing store. So when people asked me, what do you do? My answer was, I own a clothing store. Like that was a title enough. And then when we started Hello Adorn through like online, it was like, even now people like will travel and people are like, what do you guys do? And we both kind of look at each other and we're like, well, we make jewelry. And they're kind of like, oh, like I don't know how to answer. Like I don't have this title anymore that I used to have. I'm a financial advisor. I'm an insurance, you know, like that just feels, I don't know. It felt scary at first and now I really embrace it. I don't really want to be a thing.
Yeah. I think it's more fun that way. And I think people, to your point, like, and it is specific. It's all over the world, but it's very specific to our country. And people, I think that divides people then. Like I think people instantly assume they're superior to somebody based on income, which I think is complete horseshit.
It's the whole classism idea, right? They hear when you say a financial advisor, and then they can then, for the most part, gather. You make approximately this much. Mm-hmm. This is where you stand in society. But when you say you make jewelry, well, you could make a lot of money. I mean, it just depends. You could make no money.
And I think, and everybody's got their strengths. And so, like, there was one sentence from a book that like changed my life, and it was always that like if every person you meet, you assume that they're superior to you in one way or another, you'll become more interested in them. So that's like the approach I take. Like, so like that's what I always tried to train people. It's the whole like treat the CEO the same respect you treat the janitor, right? Because like, society is going to say, oh, the CEO has got this amazing job and they make this income and everything. But the janitor might be like the best father ever, right? Or the best whatever it is. And like, so that's just something that I try to remember. Like anytime I encounter anyone, it's like you get interested in like, like what are you better at than me in some area of your life? Because I guarantee you it exists. There's no chance that this doesn't exist in one capacity or another. But I don't think a lot of people do that. I think a lot of people look at like, well, I do this and you only do that. So, you know, well,
especially like, within a company though, right? Because then you're paid based on your position, which instills a value of a person, which when you're working for yourself, now all of a sudden your peers or all these other coworkers or all these other entrepreneurs and stuff, there isn't nearly the same direct comparison. Right. So, I mean, yes, you still do have the little bit of, oh shit, your store is 4 times the size and I know the real estate's more expensive here. Yeah. But in general, like it's not nearly as direct of a comparison, which is a beautiful thing for me when I get to talk with all these people because I genuinely end up being friends with everybody on the show. I don't have any negative ill will towards anyone at all, but I like hang out personally with a lot of the people who have been on the show because the conversations that we're having right now are very real, like personal conversations. Mm-hmm. You know, they're not real surface things. So I end up being friends with all these people. And I have like an incredible amount to learn because all of you guys are in very different industries than mine. We know different things. Yeah, there's some things that are the same as far as like understanding how to, brand what, you know what I mean? Having a brand behind your store or your product or whatever, and how to market it and how to hire people and whatever. But in general, industries are drastically different. How they work. You can't do what I do the way you guys do it.
Right.
Wouldn't work.
Right.
What I do, if you try to take my approach, it wouldn't work either.
Right.
You know what I mean? So it's cool because especially within what I'm doing with this, it's not just like one or two things I can learn or you can learn. There's like a whole different world that you can learn from all these different people, which, for you, every one of your peers is probably not doing the same shit as you. So you're like in kind of the same boat.
Right.
So let's because we're relatively nearing the end. What can you guys say we can expect now that everyone's going to follow you? All of my like followers, which is nowhere near yours, but they're all going to hop in, and your numbers are going to boost enough that you're going to want to buy me beer. And
we're definitely going to make some skateboard jewelry.
That's it.
For sure.
Exactly.
I'm already thinking about it.
So they're all going to follow you. What can they expect to see over the next year, 2 years or so?
I think internally we have a lot of growth on the horizon. We're adding team members. We're going to have makers. We have like general managers because we're just getting to a scale that is just not manageable for the both of us, especially when you talk about that work-life balance. But externally, I feel like the brand's just going to keep doing what it does, which is just, stay simple and beautiful and hopefully attract people to it. And I'm just going to keep doing it. Yeah,
because we always, like, to Jess's point of, like, having our story and everything, like, it's okay for your story to change, right? Because our story, if you go to our website and everything, is like we wanted this small dream, small team, a lot of time. We've lost a lot of that time. So over the next year or two, we're going to find ways to get a lot of that time back, because we also have, like I said, like this amazing crew of people that work with us. And like we want them to work with us for a really long time, and we want them to do really well. So I know my focus over the next year or two is really like the internal focus. Like Jess and the team do such a phenomenal job externally in building that brand and that aesthetic that everybody loves. But like I really think like it's back to a point where I get to work with a big team again, and like you get to like we get to put people in certain positions and we get to help them grow too, because like I don't think we'll keep everybody forever, and that's not my goal. I've always been somebody that loves to like just however we can help influence somebody and however we can help them grow to be the best version of themselves. And if they leave to go do something else, super cool. We'll applaud you the whole way. Like we will never be one that's like, oh, you can't leave, or you can't do your own thing, or you can't go to this job. Like if this isn't it for you and it's on to the next, hopefully we like had an impact, a small one maybe, whatever it is, that like is going to help you progress, like we talked about, that personal growth and everything. So I love the people that we work with, and so that's one thing that we talk about a lot lately is now that it's gotten bigger, like how do we stay in touch with them and not just grow the brand, but like let all of us grow. And I think that's ultimately where Hello Adorn is going. And we're super excited about that.
Yeah, I don't think externally you'll see all the changes. I think the brand will stay the same. Our messaging is the same. But I think one thing that people get really surprised about when they follow our story, or like it's just me on Instagram stories kind of talking whatever, is just the amount of volume that we do. It's shocking even to me, and I'm here every day seeing it. And I think this brand is just sort of like, we used to be able to very deliberately control the pace. We knew exactly what we could anticipate return on ads to be. So if we spent $100, we knew that it was going to generate this much in sales. So if we spent twice that, we would get twice that. Now it's like it just has legs of its own. I mean, it is moving faster than we can even estimate most of the time. So I think to Adam's point is just like building our team so that we can continue to do it well, but manage the work that's coming from it.
Yeah, like externally, we always want to build like raving fans is what I've always said, internally and externally. But like we deliver on the things that we say. Like if we say we ship within 7 to 10 days, we're never past that. Like we take things very seriously. We're not a company that half-asses customer service. We want to be a company that can do a lot of things on goodwill. And then we also want to get involved. Like there's a lot of stuff going on in the world right now, right? And like we're getting involved. We're starting locally. I mean, you might have saw like we created a piece that like we're not touching any of the dollars that come from it. We'll make it, package it, ship it, get it to people. We're donating all of it, and we're going to get involved in organizations every quarter where that money is going to go. So like that's what this business is starting to be for us. So like to Jess's point, externally, I don't know if people will notice or what's going on, but internally we're taking things very seriously. And we just never stop thinking about it and thinking about what it could do, not just for us. Because to be honest, like we're good. Like it worked. But like, what else can you do then?
Yeah,
you know?
I think we started this with the hope of just keeping it to this, like building it big enough that it supports us and our family. And now we want to, it's, I don't even want to say we want to build it bigger. It has built bigger to where now we can support all of our employees and their families. So we just want to keep it growing so that like everybody else can benefit from this beautiful brand.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, and
sure.
I think like the really big thing to always remember through the whole process, which again, going back to you having real careers before this, you know, you've grown enough yourselves to understand it, is a lot of people, if they hit something right, whether it's a meme that goes crazy on the internet, doesn't matter. But
or El King, where's your jewelry?
Yeah. Things then all of a sudden grow. Well, a lot of people aren't like prepared to handle that, and then they don't like it anymore because like if you would have done 2,000 of those necklaces, well, you didn't start this to make 2,000 of the same necklace. Then you're just gonna hate what you're doing. You know what I mean? Yeah. And if the company is growing and growing and growing, as long as you're still able to maintain, you know, a very strong personal satisfaction and enjoyment with what you do, that's all that really matters. And sometimes, you know, maybe you need to step back and just work on like the design process for a little bit and hand off some other tasks for a quarter or whatever. But it's just always important to remember, like, you're doing this because you really enjoy it. And the second you're not enjoying it, kind of got to go back to the drawing table a little bit and figure out, why am I not enjoying this anymore? Right. How can I figure out how I can enjoy it? Because the money is the secondary factor.
Right.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Right. And it's just constantly adapting.
Yeah.
I think also we used to talk about our limitations was just the handmade nature of our jewelry. We only each have 2 hands. So like we could only make what we could physically make. So did that cap our business? Well, we've learned now you just get more hands. But like we still have to make it all and we still ship it all and it is all done right here. So like there's products that we really want to launch that I know people will go crazy about, but we're not ready to just handle the workflow. It's a great problem to have, but we're definitely like holding off on sending some things out in the world that would just blow up and then we couldn't manage it. And then we've burned out everybody and then nobody likes it.
Deliver on the customer. Like I said, like we are doing it methodically, like, and we do always want to be able to like, we always want to be able to deliver on what we're telling people. If you order it from us, this is when it's going to come. We don't want to be somebody that overshoots it and gets greedy and has all this back order or anything. Like that's just...
Or we've fried our employees and they're not interested anymore because
that's not going to be the jam. Like we're going to continue to do it methodically. We're going to continue to do things very deliberately. And we're both all in and we both work our asses off for the most part. And we got a crew that does the same thing, really.
Yeah. Well, it's also really important to recognize that you change and evolve as a person. So your needs, wants, goals, whatever change and evolve. And your identity doesn't have to be the same as it was before. So your story that was told, you know, is this is what you want to do. Well, you know, 4 years since he's joined, but 10 years, like what you want changes. And that's okay. Just because you told people that was your story before, it was still your story before.
Right.
Now your story may be a little bit different. Yeah. Now all of a sudden, maybe you don't want to be the one making the physical jewelry and you guys want to be traveling around, designing stuff, making connections to sell in Europe. Who knows?
Right.
But it's okay if those things change. You don't have to hold on to what it was before.
Yeah, it's just
necessarily.
like next chapter, right?
Yeah,
like
absolutely.
I mean, like you said, like past doesn't exist. Like present moment is the thing. You can dream a little bit about the future, but I mean that's kind of that's the goal. I think.
I remember when Adam left Aflac and decided to come to Hello Adorn, and I was still operating under Isabel and Company, at least on social. The jewelry was always Adorn. Now it's Hello Adorn. But I remember being so paranoid about changing. So our Facebook page, the Isabel and Company Facebook page, had 2,000 fans. And I was like, I can't let go of those 2,000. Like that took a long time to get, actually. So I was like, well, Facebook wouldn't let you change your name, so you either had to start a new page. And I was like, heck no, I'm not like giving up those 2,000. That was like my lifeline for whatever reason. I just thought that was like, I couldn't let that go. And then I found a way to just change my name. It took a couple steps, but we did it. But anyway, I was like, and even if we can change our name to Hello Adorn, are these people who followed Isabel and Company going to see us in their feed one day and go, who the heck's Hello Adorn? I don't follow them, like unlike or whatever. I lost sleep over how do we rebrand, but keep this Isabel and Company crew. Now I look back and I think like, obviously, hindsight's 2020, but like it didn't matter. But at the time I was deathly afraid to change lose what I had, that past that you're talking about, the success that I had with Isabel and Company and the brand that we had, to like change it to Hello Adorn and lose them. But I wasn't thinking big enough then. But at the time, it was really scary.
Sure. Well, I mean, anytime working for yourself, the challenges that you face, you don't have a peer that's facing it with you. You're just doing it, and you kind of have to figure it out on your own.
Right.
So that being said, just because we're kind of getting to the end of the time frame that we have, what's been the most useful lesson that you've learned throughout your journey of entrepreneurship so far that you think would benefit other people?
I think for me, it's that the failure of one thing is not the end of everything. So Isabel and Company, like I just discussed, was like, I didn't want to let it go, even though it did fail. And it took a long time for me to admit that. I did kind of what Adam did, which was not take personal responsibility and blame other factors. Like, I started downtown, but it was before downtown was hot, so the traffic wasn't great. Then I went to the mall, but the mall, there was too much shoplifting, and the hours were really terrible. And then I had to move. I got kicked out of this space for another shop, and like then I had to move my shop, and so then I blamed sort of like that experience, and then I was like, I went online, and I think looking back on it, like I was really holding on to something that wasn't going to be great for me, but I didn't want to admit failure, so I kept just kind of keeping it going. But ultimately, it was by far the best thing that ever happened.
Yeah, I mean, it's all perspective on it. If you look at it as like that was a learning experience, maybe you spent some money on it, but people spend money on going to a tech school for 2 years to get a degree that helps them in their next endeavor anyways. I mean, it just depends on how you look at it. Like, it doesn't make you a failure. You learned a whole lot that clearly ended up translating anyways.
Right. I think for me, it's one of my favorite quotes is like, success is a journey, not a destination. So if you're going to get into business for yourself, if you're going to get into entrepreneurship, too many people don't do it because they just want to already be there, right? They want to be at that 6-figure income. They want to be at this. They want to be at that, whatever it is. And like, if you really, really want to do this, you really need to fall in love with the journey, which is cool because it's different for everybody. Your journey is different than mine. It's been different than Jess's. Ours came together in a unique way. But I'm very wrapped up in the journey, and that allows you to not relax in the sense that you're not working, but have a little trust in yourself, that it's okay to be wherever you are at that moment, that you don't have to, like, to me, I just feel like I'm never going to land in the end zone. Like, I'm never just going to be, we're there.
Like, there in quotations.
Yeah, because we joke, like,
there.
we don't really have, like, retirement goals, or, like, I just hope that I'm always busy. Maybe it's 10 hours a week when I'm 70 years old. I don't know what it is. But that's been the best lesson to me because it's allowed me to make changes. Like leaving the job I left, most people were like, what in the hell are you doing? And most people, again, not saying it in an arrogant way, but most people wouldn't have like swallowed the pride and taken the humility to do some of the things I had to do to be here. But that was just part of the journey. Like that was cool with me to work in the dirt or do whatever I needed to do, knowing that ultimately it was just going to continue to grow as this journey, and I got to do it with my wife that just had so much passion behind it, and it's just been the greatest thing for me. But I think if you're very fixed on a certain destination, whether it's financially or whatever that destination is for you, like just get more involved in the journey, enjoy the ride, as cliche as that sounds. If you're going to be in business for yourself, that's it. Like, I mean, it's going to change. You're going to adapt. Like, we've been talking about it for the last however long we've been talking about. But that's it for me. Like, success is the journey. It is not a destination for me. And that has helped me a ton to transition throughout the, I don't know, what am I, almost 39, I said? So, like, 17, 18 years of being self-employed. It's just been a crazy ride. It's been super fun. And I don't know what the hell the destination is yet. But that would be, like, lessons I've learned and advice I would give. Like, soak up that ride a little bit, for sure.
I mean, I think the destination is almost always extremely disappointing and empty because you already did it. Now it's like, okay, well, what's the next thing?
Exactly.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, because you're typically wrong. Like my destination from 17 years ago was wrong. I'd be very disappointed at that point, so, but it can change and that's okay.
Absolutely. Well, do you guys have any last words before we go with the song?
I would just like to go on record of saying I was not looking forward to this, but I actually really enjoyed it. So thank you. I get stage fright on the mic, but hey, it worked out.
And I would just say I appreciate you hitting us up to do this, and I appreciate what you're doing. We love to talk business with people. We love to share ideas, and I love to hear people doing things with good intention. So good on you for that. And then because of that, we'll give you props for the song. And we're going to finish the last song, which is Wild Child, which will now be part of our Pandora playlist. And we're going to specifically go with Dirty Bird.
Crazy Bird.
Crazy Bird. So close.
Also, saying Pandora makes us sound really old.
Oh, sorry.
That's the old person station.
Well, that's just
it is our station. But
yeah,
what are the kids listen to?
Yeah.
Spotify Premium, baby.
Spotify.
All right. Well, we'll look
just
into
edit that in.
Yeah, edit that in.
Thank you for joining us for this episode of The Passion Pod. We hope you enjoyed it as much as we did. We'll see you soon.